What is a free citizen? There is no freedom in a profane system. One cannot utilize the levers provided by a profane system to achieve freedom. Profane systems exist to keep citizens enslaved. The level of slavery varies, but the only way slavery can be eliminated is by eliminating profanity. Profanity is actions that offend, denigrate or diminish God. We cannot be free without God. That means outside of the system created by God for us so we can have fellowship with God. The Bible is full of lines, meaning boundaries. God created reality as something logical. He used logic for form reality. When he spoke reality into existence, he used the language of logic. This is so we have a common language. God wanted us to be able to understand him, but also, he wanted us to understand the world he formed for us. But what is freedom in this system? What is logical freedom, or freedom interpreted logically? If we are within a system that only permits one solution, or even one response, what kind of freedom do we have? This is the problem. We have been listening to demons. In the demonic realm, freedom is being God. God is not hampered by logic. God is not constrained by the laws of logic or nature. If God was man, God could engage in any activity, and it would be justified. This is a moral disease called hypervigilantism. The person with this disease suffers from an intense sense of justice. He is a person who, vigilantly aware, sees victims everywhere. But in so doing he needs a Christ, a sacrificial creature, and that is those who have borne the fruits of faith and therefore, has power. Power is a sign of corruptibility, when based in property, but a sign of virtue when based upon faith. The corruptibility of power based on property was why the devil was able to stand upon a high mountain, a physical seat of authority, and offer to Christ all of the principalities and powers of earth. Being constrained by logic creates problems for the devil as it does for his minions. The devil cannot just create a system. There is no way to actually create anything new. What we and he creates must always be an adaptation or even corruption of what exists. When the demonic forces want to invent an idol or new creature, it is always an adaptation of the creatures that exist. Totems turn the natural into the supernatural because the less natural and the more fanciful, the harder it is to take them seriously. We might be able to intellectually imagine a phoenix, but any attempt to manifest or illustrate this, betrays just how devoid of meaning the concept is. The devil and his minions want freedom. What they mean by this is that they want power. God has power because he has freedom. This is the issue. The devil cannot take God's power, and he cannot circumvent logic, he cannot overcome the logical structure of reality. And so, the freedom and power he is able to acquire is seriously limited. What he does is sometimes called the transvaluation of our values. Our values are inverted. The worst manifestation of this is seen in transgenderism. But a more common way of doing this is through the use of democracy. Tyranny is a more direct way of doing the same thing, but the West has moved beyond the brutal domination that occurred with the divine right of kings and communist dictatorships. That does not mean the ancestor is not apparent. The devil has introduced democracy as a more subtle way of destroying logic and therefore, the system God implemented. We need to realize there is an objective that this war wants to achieve. The left wants us apathetic, passive and cowed. The earth is the physical objective, in that once the left owns and controls everything, it will have the power it seeks. Most of us know of this objective as globalism and the implementation of a one-world government, but the flip side of this is the loss of Christianity and freedom. So what is a free citizen? The world promises freedom under the guise of liberalism. This freedom is supposedly the ability to do what one wills without repercussions, but there is always a cost to freedom. If we do not pay our own way, someone must. That might be true, but it is rhetorical complaint if we cannot identify the creator of a cost nor who formed the value that has been added to our economy. Most people want other people to be accountable for their costs. Our justice system is supposed to hold people to account for what they do. It is interesting that our justice system talks in the terms of economics, because it is, ultimately, all about costs and who pays them. Everything that is evil is parasitical, All evil consists of passing costs onto society and future generations. Sin creates costs for the self. When we let the flesh govern us, we suffer on a personal level. We all live in the flesh, and we all suffer from the desires of the flesh. Even Paul remarked that he could not do what he wanted but did that which he did not want. The lusts of the flesh are so much a part of us, we do not have the means to overcome them, which is why we must put our faith in Christ. But evil is something different. We do evil when we are no longer just harming ourselves, we have turned our lusts outward and put them onto others. Yesterday was the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and much is made about the violence of both political sides. We might add in the fact that both whites and blacks kill their own and each other. There is an attempt to equivocate the two sides in an effort to justify calls for peace and a tamping down of the rhetoric. What the left tries to suggest is that neither side has clean hands. This is true, but that does not mean the two sides are the same or the activities of the two sides can be equivocated. We are not the same. The other side, be it liberal, left or black, celebrates violence and views it as politics by other means. The other side celebrates a successful violent act, calls for more and provides legitimacy and cover for violence done and violence to come. Both sides commit violence, but on one side it is a means to an end, on the other it is an anomaly and nothing to be celebrated. That does not mean the right eschews violence, we are very much for it, but we create a vehicle through which we do it. It is done, if you like, in context. We commit violence in war and in efforts to curb crime. We do not commit it or celebrate it when done spontaneously or individually. Violence is to be done as an act of justice, not for personal revenge but as part of a movement to effect justice. So, in this we are not the same. Violence from the left is part of their agenda and objective. Violence for us is always measured and purposeful. It is done for clear reasons, not to assuage hurt feelings, it is not done to make us feel better about some situation. As free citizens we are not free to commit violence on others. That is not our choice. However, we are required to wage war when war is justified. Many Christians are confused about this, thinking we are, as a group, to turn the collective cheek. We cannot turn the cheek of others, and we certainly cannot turn the cheek of God or His church. No one has greater love than this, that He laid down His life for His friends. John 15 verse 13. Why lay down your life if turning the other cheek is the proper option? But we know everything in the Bible points to the existence of good and evil and a sharp and unbridgeable chasm between them. This is illustrated by Matthew 18 verses 15 to 22. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone, if he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church, but if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching any thing that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Then came Peter to him, and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times. Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee, until 7 times, but, until 70 times 7. These verses are matched by 2 Corinthians 6:14-18. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them, and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. And will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. But what church or pastor ever addresses this? We ought to have no connection with them. The killing of Charlie is not upon the heads of the Democrats or liberals, it is upon the heads of the hypocrite and Laodicean pastors and churches that will not draw a line in the sand, this far and no further. We are to give to God what belongs to God and to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Our worship and service belong to Christ alone. What we have is His. This is not in question or up for debate. Our very Christian journey from doubt to faith ought to be accompanied at distancing ourselves from the institutions of this world. Indeed, if we are to have only one Master, how can we deepen our faith without at the same time distancing ourselves from the things of the flesh? The inward journey is the outward journey. We cannot truly become virtuous without changing how we think and act. We cannot deepen our faith in God without purifying our minds, and we cannot do this without it impacting the way we live. We surely cannot fundamentally change the way we live without simultaneously changing our minds about things. A free citizen is not a citizen enslaved to sin. Indeed, the notion of a free citizen is nonsense in the way liberals envision it. We cannot be free of natural law, for the flesh is tied to it and we are tied to the flesh. We cannot be free of the moral law, because we are spiritual beings, and when we act contrary to our nature, we actually become less free. At the risk of providing a poor analogy, freedom is akin to a person walking to the gallows. The path may not be one we want to take, but we have the choice of going willingly, under our own volition, or being carried there. We go to war, not necessarily with great enthusiasm, but we go willingly because it is somewhere we need to go. We need to have faith that where we must go, we need to go. That is the life of a Christian. The life of an unbeliever is the life of someone who does not go where he must and so ends up in a life where he loses the ability to make choices. If you do not choose to go where you must, you go where you do not want to go but without any ability not to go. Drug addiction is all about giving up freedom of choice. But more, it is about freedom from paying one's costs. Freedom for liberals is not getting a bill for what one receives. This is why communism is favored by the left. Life to a liberal is about freedom, but their idea of freedom is having property without having to work to get it. As this is not really possible, liberals end up stealing, one way or another. This theft can be hidden in a law or in an addiction or in the identity of a victim. But the end product is a person who feels entitled to have property, and if they lack the property they want, they take on the identity of a victim. That explains everything you will see in this world. There are people with property, and some believe they are entitled to it, and others do not and are willing to work for what they get. The freedom we want is found in our willingness to give to get or to get without giving. It's two distinct views of freedom. A free citizen is, in the most fundamental sense, a person that sees freedom as the power to exercise one's duty. To be free was to be open to doing what one ought without compulsion. The free citizen makes the nation work without the need for a regulatory environment. There may be the law and there may be a justice system, but the free citizen makes it irrelevant, because he does what is right without compulsion and goes above and beyond what he or she is required to do.